Welcome everybody to the special lesson on the Ognist Ossetru Days of Remembrance. These are the important days in our festival calendar, days that you should be aware of and days that you should plan into your personal life and your kindred life. We're going to talk about the four main ones that happen at the four parts of the year: spring equinox, fall equinox, and the summer and winter solstices. So first off, we have the spring equinox, Ostara. This represents the first quarter of the year having passed by, and in the Nordic times there was only summer and winter were the only seasons. So from spring to fall equinox was summer, and from fall equinox to spring equinox was winter. So we celebrate both the spring and fall equinoxes, our spring planting and life-giving bloats, and our fall harvest or cutting and death of the crops bloats. Also, we celebrate the summer solstice and the winter solstice, similar to compass, denoting the longest day and shortest night, and the longest night and shortest day of the year. These are important times to us: passing of the year, passing of the seasons, changing of energies in the world. Get halfway through winter, you realize that it's not so bad, and you have somewhat of a drive to push into spring and make it to that next planting. Get halfway through summer and you're like, man, well, for us, rain, and then all this hot weather sucks. It's halfway over. We can push our way into fall, into the harvest, and then we know we're on our way to plentifulness again. We also have some other festivals we celebrate in between. I'm just going to list some of these off. If you would like, I have a list that I can give or show to you at a later time. In January, we have Charming of the Plow. This is where we bless the actual farming equipment before we take it out into the fields. We have a Day of Remembrance for Raud the Strong. And in January, we also have a Thor bloat, Sacred Thor, to bring fertility to the ground and to the soil with the spring rains, making everything fertile and ready for our crops. In February, we have Bari, a day to plant seeds for future harvest. So for us, that's probably around the time we're going to start planting seeds in our greenhouse. We have a Day of Remembrance for Ivin Kenrifi, and we also have Feast of Vali, Sacred Diwali. That's our modern adaptation of Valentine's Day, kind of to give ourselves our own meaning and purpose on that day. In March, we have a Day of Remembrance for Oliver the Martyr, and the High Feast of Ostara on the spring equinox, sacred to Ostara, Freya, and Frigga. In April, we have a Day of Remembrance for Jarl Håkon. We have a Sigurblot, the first day of summer in the old calendar, which was sacred to Odin. We have Yggdrasil Day, which is like our Earth Day, a day to plant trees and shrubs. So again, another holiday adapted for our own instead of the other way around. You like that for a change, Christians? And Walberg, the last day of April, sacred to Freya and the glorious dead. And of course, May Day, which was a culturally significant day of spring, similar to our star up, depending on what area you hailed from. In May, we have Day of Remembrance for Guthroth, as well as a Frigga bloat, sacred to Frigga, the All-Mother. June 8th, most important day out of the year, Lindisfarne Day, that marked the beginning of the Viking Age and the first raid on the Lindisfarne Monastery off the coast of England, starting a whole trend of raids and sacking of coastlines and expanding of the Vikings into Iceland, Greenland, and America. Like, it was the beginning of a very important time in history for us. A day of new beginnings. We also have a day of remembrance for Sigurd the Volsung and High Feast of Balder, sacred to Balder, which would be our summer solstice. Day of celebration, all about the light. It's the longest day of the year. In July, we have Founders Day. We honor Svinbjorn Bintensen, Ruud Mills, and Thorstein Gudjonsson, the founders of modern-day Asatru and the Asatru revival. We also have a day of remembrance for Un the Deep-Minded. Very good story, Un. And for Stiklestad Day, Day of Atonement. That was the day we killed Olaf the traitor. Olaf Tryggvason. In August, we have a day of remembrance for Radbod, as well as Freyfaxi, the first harvest bowl, sacred to Frey. In September, we have a day of remembrance for Herman of the Cherusi, as well as Winter Finding, High Feast of Odin, and the major harvest feast sacred to Odin. October, we have Day of Remembrance for Eric the Red, we call Heritage Day. Also a day of remembrance for Leif Erikson, Eric the Red's son, which we call Discovery Day. Those would be October 8th and 9th. Also on the 11th is Winter Nights, the first day of winter in the old calendar, sacred to Freya and the ancestors. In November, we have a day of remembrance for Queen Sigrid of Sweden. She's a bad bitch, that one. Also, the Feast of the Einarjar, those chosen battle slain, the chosen battle slain. That's our adaptation to Veterans Day. The Feast of Uller, the post-hunting feast, sacred to Uller. And in December, we have a day of remembrance for Egil Skallagrimsson, as well as Yule 20th. December 20th is Mother Nights, or the day before the winter solstice, whichever one the winter solstice falls on. The 20th, 21st, or 22nd. Mother Nights is the night before. Sacred to the ancestors and the beginning of Yuletide. And then December 21st, or 21st or 22nd, depending on the solstice day. High Feast of Yule, beginning of runic year, sacred to Thor and Frey. This particular runic era calendar was prepared by Valgard Murray of the Alshir Yargothi of Asatru Alliance. These, along with any other days you find in remembrance of your own, can be honored throughout the year. The typical way of honoring is the 3-round sumbel. This is rounds of drinks. 3 rounds of drinks, first to the gods, whatever particular god is of honor that day. Next is to dead, to the ancestors, to particular friends or family who have passed on before you that you would like to lay significance to. Death days or remembered birthdays are good days for days of remembrance. Many of these days were death days. And then to the living. Here we toast our kith and our kin, our friends and family, our other people living here on this earth right now. people or beings, animals, whatever it may be. After the 3 rounds comes open rounds, and a sumbel, basically we go until the mead's gone, until you feel like stop drinking. However, at the end of rounds with the horn, once it returns to the gothi, or the starting point, whoever started the sumbel, started the toast, has to finish whatever mead is left in the horn when it gets back to the beginning. Open rounds can include brags, where the god Bragi comes from, through speech, bragging about all, or boasts, oaths, troths. So brags, I brag that I can get this done by this point, blah blah blah, or I can outdo something with someone else. Boast that you're stronger than I could beat up my brother, or I could outdrink Justin, or I could outrun Fred. Oaths, oaths to the gods, oaths to promise to get things done, as well as troths. Um, Giving your fealty, your loyalty, admitting your loyalty to another person, to other kindred members, to a king, to new family members. You get married and you give your loyalty to your wife's family now as well. Those would be troths. So that's part of a sumbel. I'm glad we kind of got to fit that in. Thank you, and Hail, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Odin, Balder, Frey, Thor, hail kindred.